Hi everyone, my name is Vishakha Raviraj and I'm very happy to be hosting the first episode of the Captivated series podcast. It is a podcast where I will interview, women entrepreneurs, mostly in my quilting community, and get them into the forefront, give a face to the voice or the art that they do. And today with us, our first guest is Diptee. The episode title is Captivated by Diptee, who is the founder and editor of Quilt Stories magazine. So she is a multifaceted lady. She is an artist. She's a quilter. She is having an Etsy store. She's a blogger, a homemaker, and finally, the most intriguing part about her, which I want to explore today, is that she is the founder of India's first quilting magazine. So, welcome, Dipti.
Thank you so much for the introduction, Vishakha. And it's wonderful that you started with this podcast. I think it's a brilliant thing to do. It's so important to get women out of their people. So I think that's great. Thanks so much for having me as your first guest.
Uh, Thanks, Dipti. So, let's start by asking you, who is Dipti? Like in a few points, if you have to tell our audience who is Dipti, what would you tell us about her?
About who is Diptee? Well, I go by a lot of things. A lot of people call me weird, mad, crazy. So I think I'm all of that. But basically, simple girl who was born in Bombay, and I've later moved to Calcutta. And I've always loved a lot of extracurricular things like reading and writing and crafting, and of course sewing and quilting. And I guess all of that together has made me quite a dreamer. I've always been a dreamer. I mean, literally, I even today tend to live in a fantasy world. I tend to get transported into a fantasy world with forest fairies, slaying dragons kind of a world. So that's what I am as a person.
Wow, wow.
Um, and I guess I'm happy to be that kind of a person. It's weird
Okay.
and crazy, but that's good. It's a good
Yeah.
weird and crazy.
Yeah. So I think that's what they say, right? Artists have a different part of the brain that gets activated, and that's how their art comes out.
So, yeah, I guess
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
true. I guess it's being able to visualize away from the real world kind of makes you more creative that way. So that
Yes.
always helps.
Yes. So coming to my second question, tell us a little bit about your journey. So you said you've been interested in creative things. So how did that, become a business for you and then finally taking up the job as a founder and editor of a quilting magazine?
So, okay. So, like I said, I was born in Bombay, and as a child, I was again interested in a lot of things, which also included sewing and uh, quilting. Thankfully, my school had some experience, gave me some experience in sewing, and then my mother though I was terrible at making clothes, on the sewing machine. We had the old finger sewing machine at home.
Okay.
So it was always the thing that interested me. So even as a kid, I would kind of make silly clothes for dolls and things like that. So I always was keen on that. And my aunts were into quilting. So as a child, I would always see them. So from my mother's side, it's a big family. We were like almost 100 people family. So you know, a new child was being born like almost every few months, and then these
Okay.
aunts were busy making quilts for every children that was born in the family.
Okay.
So and that was a time when there was no internet, and it was just completely out of creativity and their head that they would come and do these amazing piecing together, right? I mean, I don't know
Mhm.
how they knew about half square triangle or log cabins, but they did those kind of these things. They
Okay.
probably didn't know what it was called. They would have probably seen it somewhere, and I always saw them, and it was always very fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
So, that was an inspiration. My aunts were an inspiration to me. And I would also kind of with them dabble a bit with the sewing machine and make things out of old things. Like I remember in my college days, my entire college time, I used old curtains to make a bag, and I used that backpack to college. So kind of I
Wow.
always like to go and make my
Yeah.
own things. And then so I'm an HR professional. Okay, so
Okay.
I did my MBA in HR, and then I worked for almost 15 years in an industry, in the insurance industry, and then in a leading media house, publication house of India.
Mm-hmm.
And so while during this, quilting kind of obviously took a backseat, sewing and quilting, then career was what I was focused into. But somewhere I knew I was not really for corporate, and
Mm-hmm.
I was the kind who always wanted to kind of retire at 40 and do something of my own. I didn't know what exactly.
Okay.
And then when I was pregnant with my child, all those memories of making, that time also my aunt had made quilts for my baby, was making quilts. And
Okay.
I said, okay, let me also make a few for my child. So when I was pregnant, I bought my first sewing machine.
Wow.
And I started making a quilt for my child. And that's when, I started exploring the internet on what's on quilting. And I
Okay.
saw that it was vast all over the
Yeah.
world. Right?
Yes.
Till then, for me, the quilting knowledge was what my aunts used to make,
Uh-huh.
which they didn't have battings and stuff. So they would obviously use old saris inside and things like that.
Yes.
But the whole world of quilting opened up then when I kind of searched the internet, became part of quilting communities in India on Facebook,
Okay.
and met up and spoke to a lot of these quilters, and it was very inspirational. And that's
Wow.
when the whole quilting bug caught me back, and I started
Okay.
quilting again.
Okay.
And then with days and years, I knew, okay, I wanted to finally finish off my
Corporate.
corporate career and get into
Yes.
something else. So
So
slowly
what
and
year
steadily,
was
I
it?
worked towards it. My child was born in 2011, so I
Okay.
started getting into quilting in 2011, but I quit my job in 2017 end.
Okay.
So since then, it's been
Okay.
the
And what was
journey.
the first machine that you got? Was it a Singer
I'm
too?
sorry.
Was it a Singer
I
machine?
I got no, I did not get a single machine. I got an Usha Janome, the
Okay.
Allure one. Okay, a very
Okay.
basic one. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. But yeah, I
And
think the
later
basic
now I
model.
use a Dream Maker, but yeah, I like the Usha model.
Yeah. Yeah. Even my first machine was a Singer Talent, a very basic small machine, because
Basic,
I was not
small
sure
machine.
whether I'm going to explore it further or not.
Right, right.
Yeah. So wonderful. So your inspiration or starting was your child.
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean,
He
completely full time into quilting, but the interest for quilting was way before. I mean, from the time I was a child, so it was
wonderful.
always there.
So great, good, very nice. So that came into existence. The inner
That
quilter
came
came
into
out.
existence, and that's how quilting happened.
Yeah. So, and also you said that you were working for a media house. So I think that's where you have the skills of, writing and editing and, dreaming of actually having a magazine, because it's a huge, huge responsibility, especially when it's just the first, magazine of the entire country. So let's jump to that part of it. What made you want to start a quilting magazine?
So yes, media house. I was interested in writing. I think that comes from your love for reading. So I used to read a lot of fantasy. I used to write a lot of fantasy. So I've had these published books and stuff, and I used to run a blog with a lot of short stories and general like humor. So writing was it, and what happened, I mean, the way Quilt Stories magazine happened was my my aunt passed away, the one who was into quilting, one of the
Okay.
aunts who was majorly into quilting. And I inherited a lot of her quilting stuff, which included a lot of magazines which her sons who were in the US had sent to her.
Yes, yes.
So that's the time I first saw these magazines, which get published in the US, and they were fascinating.
Yeah.
So there was, they had a lot of, they had interviews, they had a lot of new techniques, a lot of patterns, and I was wondering why don't we have, something similar in India?
Yes. Yes.
And that's where that seed was planted about, maybe we should start off with a magazine, because it's very inspiring. It kind of gives you a lot of ideation, and it also promotes our existing quilters across.
Yes.
So that's how it started. So I said, okay, let me give it a shot. And
Okay.
COVID happened, lockdown, people were at home, everybody was trying a whole lot of new things, and
Yes.
the magazine is what I started with at that time. So
Okay.
yeah, it's been almost 3 years. My next issue, I'll be completing 3 years of the magazine.
Wow, wonderful.
So yeah.
Very, very happy to hear that. So how many issues are out till now?
So 17 issues out. The next issue is going to be the 18th issue. So it's a bi-monthly magazine, once every 2 months, every alternate month. So
Yes, wonderful. And I have been very fortunate enough to be a part of your magazine a couple of
yeah,
times.
and I really
And
thank you, and a lot of people in the community. I mean, I've got
yes,
so much support for this from the
yes,
community.
yes. Yeah, I'm sure because quilting is
Sorry.
taking up in a big way in India. Because when I
Yes.
started back in 2008, I didn't really know any quilters around. Then slowly, steadily got to know and found out that there is a active community in India
Absolutely.
and
Yeah. I mean, even
doing
I didn't
great
know it was
work.
so much. Yeah. Great
Yeah.
work. I mean, it's uh, at par with everyone around the world, I think, what we're
Yes,
doing today.
yes, yes. So I think your step of making the magazine will only spread this culture of Indian quilting outside. Like many people outside don't still know that India is actively into quilting.
Right.
Yeah,
But
so
Bishakha, it's amazing that the magazine already has its reach around, and
hmm,
I get so many emails from people over the world,
hmm.
saying that, oh, they love this article and it's such a great magazine.
Sorry, you got muted, Diptee. Can you just check, please? Okay, so wonderful to know about how the Quilt Stories magazine came into existence. And so, my next question for you is what are the few challenges that you face as an editor or a person who is compiling a magazine?
Um, Challenges really is getting people to contribute, enough people and enough articles coming in.
Okay.
So, and somewhere I believe that people want to, but they also don't have that confidence in them,
Hmm.
that whether they can write the pattern or write. And I keep telling them that, you write, we'll edit it together and we'll get
Hmm.
it right. It's okay. It doesn't have to be flawless English or anything like that.
Hmm. Hmm.
And which is fine. A lot of people have also, I've had somebody who has answered everything in Marathi, and then I have translated it in uh,
English.
English and done
Wow.
it, because they weren't very fluent with
Yes.
English, and which is fine. But
Yeah.
I guess that's the confidence that people need to have, that it's okay. I mean, they don't need to. I mean, it's about promoting them. It's not about how fluently they speak a language. It's about how beautifully they quilt. That's what it is about.
Correct. Correct.
So that's one. Yeah, it's a little. Sometimes people back out at the last minute, which gets a little frustrating, because then I know
Yes.
I don't have too many things. But I understand a lot of times there are issues. They don't really want to do that.
Yeah.
But it's then a last minute thing for me to find a replacement or a replacement writer. So these are
Yeah.
a few things. Um, initially editing was a bit of a problem, but today, with the advent of technology, that's also become quite simple. Uh,
Okay.
a lot of time, the basic editing, I mean, you just put it on Word and AI just kind of, if there are grammar errors and stuff, it kind of helps you with that. So that helps.
Okay.
But so that's not really a challenge much. I do
Okay.
use a lot of technological help. And I guess, yeah, that's the main thing. Otherwise, as far as people, when they give, they usually give it on time. So that's not an issue.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would like if more people would contribute to the magazine.
Yeah, yeah. So going out to all our listeners, please contribute. Write to Diptee, flood her inbox with articles and ideas for the
Absolutely.
magazine. That will be a wonderful situation. She will have a
I
lot of
think
work, of
also,
course.
yeah,
Yeah.
right, which is fine, and I'm happy to do that. Also,
Yes,
I think a lot of our quilters need to start writing patterns. A lot of we
yes,
don't have
yes.
enough pattern writers here,
Yeah,
and we have so many ideas and thoughts, and if they can just plug them into patterns,
yeah. So a
I think it
basic
would
question
really help.
going out to, novice quilters. What is pattern writing? Like in a few words, if you can explain.
So, when you come across, uh, so a lot of times I don't know if you bought patterns, but even if you search for patterns, it's basically what is your requirement for making a particular quilt in terms of your fabric, and what are the kind of blocks, and just a small simple explanation of how you created those blocks
Okay.
to make that quilt. Um, and just writing down your process, it's not a very difficult thing. It's as you're quilting, you just write down
Mm-hmm.
your process of which part you can. It doesn't have to be, a lot of people feel that they're technologically challenged, they cannot uh, draft the diagrams of a quilt, which is also not
Yeah.
required. I mean, you can do it on a piece of paper and that's all right. It doesn't have to be on a
Okay.
computer or done in a way. I mean, you can just
Yeah.
explain it with a simple square and triangle drawings a,
On
on a
paper
piece of
and
paper.
okay, okay. Because personally, for me, even I didn't know what was pattern making. So when we make a quilt, there are certain blocks which get repeated. So it's a
Correct.
simple pattern to just make those blocks. So for me,
For
the
each of the
intimidating,
blocks,
yeah, for
yes.
me personally, the intimidating thing is math. I feel, if my measurements are not proper or accurate, then the result is not going to be accurate. So yeah, I guess some challenges quilters
Because the
have
math
in
part
terms of
always helps when, the math bit always helps when you kind of make a block, and
hmm,
while making it, you see what measurements you've taken. And then after you finish making the block, you see what the measurement is. You note
okay,
those down, and then you can kind of create that one only into the pattern, right? So it
okay.
is
Yeah, it's wonderful because abroad I have seen that there are quilters who want pattern testers. So they are like,
right.
guess, a group of people who will test the pattern for you and
Yes.
say yes or no. So yeah, maybe in one of your issues you can have a pattern testing challenge or
Yeah, yeah, we could do that.
yeah, yeah, and see how the public takes it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, great. So good to know that. So talking about the challenges, let's also talk about the benefits. Like, I mean, I'm sure you have achieved tiny, tiny milestones over a period of these 18 issues. So what are the pluses of finding, making the magazine or starting the magazine?
One is, I think it expanded my quilting network to a very vast
Hmm,
level,
yes.
nationally and internationally.
Hmm,
It is, I've come across some really amazing artists in this journey of mine, and their work has been so inspirational. I mean, while it's what we see in the magazine, but when you're also communicating with them, there's a lot of
yes.
uh, details and a lot of ideas that come in. So
Yes.
that's been a huge plus. Uh, Secondly, it's just a sense of satisfaction, and
Hmm,
at the end uh, of an issue, even if I get one email from one person saying that they really love the magazine,
Hmm.
or a message, it just completely brightens up your
I'm
day.
sure.
So that's
Yes.
it's a great feeling.
Hmm.
It's nice. It's a good feeling that the art is getting promoted.
Yes.
A lot of Indian quilters who are abroad, when I had approached them, a lot of them came back to me and saying, "Oh, is this the kind of work being done in India? We
Yeah.
had no idea that you get batting in India, or you get rulers in India, or even
Exactly.
rotary
Yeah.
cutters in India." And I
Yes.
said, "Yeah, I mean, so they had no clue that it's all available there. They still thought it was a very US UK thing, that where they were."
Yes.
I said,
Yeah.
"Yeah, I mean, we have, and we are expanding, and we are doing much more today."
Yeah.
So, just that awareness, I think, and the thought going out that we are also progressing. I think it brings a lot of joy.
Yeah, of course. And to small type quilters like me, having their articles published is also like a huge achievement
I I
to be
I
a
do hope. I'm
part of
very
yours.
happy, and
Yeah.
no, I mean, I repeat again, it wouldn't have been possible without the support of you quilters. I mean, it's because of you that the
Yes.
magazine goes on. So
Thank you. So now, our listeners, who would want to get into quilting or say maybe want to do some blogging or writing, uh, do they need like a specific educational background for going through the process? Or, I mean, what are the tools that you would suggest one needs?
So, not educational background really, but if it's completely new for them, there are a lot of tutorials and a lot of people giving tutorials and workshops.
Mm-hmm.
Even if they attend some basic workshops, I think that would help. Uh, Another thing is, the first time or the second time you do it, it may not be great. Your points will not match, your binding will not
Yeah.
be right. It
Yes.
will not be square, it might be crooked. you
Yes.
know don't give up. I mean, it's about practice, and the same goes for writing as well,
Yes.
right? It may not be the best written work that you have, but these are skills that can be honed, and the only
Mm-hmm.
way to hone them is by practicing them very regularly and not giving up on them. So I think
Yes.
that's one very important thing to do.
Okay.
And tools are available readily today. If you want workshops, you want any help, you have quilters who will help you. I mean, just log on to any
Mm-hmm.
groups and ask, and it's a very helpful community, so they'll help.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
you just have to do it. That's about it.
Okay. So you just have to visualize and take the first few steps and stick to it, like not give up.
And stick to it. Don't give up.
Yeah.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
is
That's
not.
what.
It's not easy, but then nothing is, right? So
Yeah. Yes, I'm sure. So it's a great, great part of advice that you are giving. And one very quick last few question for you is, um, how do you see yourself for the magazine in future? Like, what are your goals for the next coming up years?
um, well, see, when I started the magazine, I didn't see it as what it would hold in the future. It was more of
Yes.
an idea to promote quilting and quilters in India, to
Mm.
have India's first quilt magazine. And with the support of the quilters, I hope that it continues this way. It promotes more. It
Okay.
has a reach around the world. Um, uh, in terms of the future of the magazine, I would like to continue with it. Maybe I hope someday I can move it into a printed hard copy of a
Yeah. Yeah.
magazine, or
That'll
at
be
least
great.
compile it
Yes.
together, because a lot of people say, we don't want to read it digitally. Why don't
Yeah.
you do it? So that's something I am aiming for. Let's fingers
Yeah.
crossed that it works. It's
Yes. Surely.
got a lot of work to be done in that case, but let me see how we can work it. Even if it's not every issue, maybe we compile few issues together, and
Yeah.
take articles from each issue and create something. So
Yeah, yeah,
that's
maybe
how.
a milestone episode or a milestone number 25 or
Right,
30 or whatever,
right,
whenever you reach that. So
right.
yeah, that's
That's,
wonderful.
that's what
Uh,
I
s-
hope to do.
okay, Dipti. So after listening to your future plans about expanding the magazines, where do you see yourself as a quilter? What is it that you want to try new in terms of quilting or exploring this art?
There is so much new to try. I mean, and now with the magazine and the things that I see, I mean, it's like filled with ideas. There are so many new things to try. I want to try more working with, I want to do some very traditional ones. I want to give a shot at more modern ones. Um, I want to write more patterns. I want to do more complicated quilts because I've been doing very simpler quilts. Um,
Okay.
I want to I want to delve into miniature quilts. So there's a lot of things to do.
Oh,
I think
wow.
it's fast and
Wow.
um, I think it's a huge learning and it never stops. So
Yes,
there's
yes.
just too many things to be done as a quilter,
Yeah.
and those goals are like skyrocketed. So,
Yes, I'm sure because you are exposed to far more quilting ideas than a common quilter is because people write to you and they have ideas. So I'm sure you may feel excited to try each one of them. But of course, time is a constraint.
time is a constraint. Yeah, I mean, wish
Yes.
we had more time.
Yes. So that's about it from my side. Thank you so much for being a part of this podcast. And before we leave, there is a small part which I called as HST. So in the quilting community, half square triangles are a favorite pattern for working and creating different varieties. So I call it
Right.
have some tip. So tips or tricks for our listeners. So, what is that one thing you would want to, tell our viewers before signing off?
I mean, for our viewers who are quilters, one thing I want to say is don't forget to iron every single block that you do.
Okay.
Because yeah, I mean, I've been so lazy to do that myself. I don't do it, and I realize it makes a mess of most quilts. So it is a boring job, but don't skip
Yes.
on it. Iron
Oh.
every block that you make, and like I said earlier, don't give up on quilting and
Yeah.
keep practicing. I guess yeah,
Okay, wonderful. So yeah, ironing is not something which I also do regularly. Maybe I finish
yeah.
half a quilt and then think of
And
ironing.
then we think of
Yeah.
ironing. I know. I mean, I
Yes.
do that.
Yes.
I'm giving that as a tip, but I also don't follow it to the T. And I say no. When I do, I know it makes a lot of difference to the quilts.
Wonderful. Wonderful. So these are the things that we will get to hear, I hope, from other quilters, also
Yeah,
tiny bits and pieces
absolutely.
which will make one's quilting better and crisper. So thank you
Yeah,
so
yeah.
much, Dipti, for sparing your time, and it was a pleasure having you here. Just excited
Thank
to
you.
see your episode as a first episode.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Vishakha. It was a pleasure being here. It was
Yes.
good chatting up with you, and
Yeah.
all the best for this podcast. I mean, I'm
Thank
I'm
you.
sure quilters are going to love it, and
Yeah.
others are also going to love watching it. I'm pretty sure.
Correct.
So thank
So it gives a face,
thank
right? So many people who have read your magazine will actually see
you.
you
Yeah,
face to face today and give a face to the magazine founder. So that's
probably
the
yes,
intent. Yes.
absolutely.
Yes. Okay,
Great,
Dipti.
great.
Thank
It's
you. Thank you
something.
so much.
Thank you so much again, Vishakha.